Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Earth's wrath shocks the Galactic Council. The sleek Council scout ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. It seemed to materialize from nowhere, a gleaming silver vessel against the black of space. Captain T stood frozen at the viewport of the International Space Station, his coffee mug suspended halfway to his lips. "Sir, you need to see this," he called over his shoulder, not taking his eyes off the alien craft. The rest of the crew floated quickly to join him. No one spoke. The alien ship hovered silently, its hull reflecting Earth's blue glow. It was beautiful and terrifying. "Are we receiving any transmissions?" asked Science Officer Lee, her voice barely above a whisper. Communications Officer Han shook his head. "Nothing on any frequency we can detect." Back on Earth, the world's governments scrambled into emergency sessions. Military forces went on high alert. Social media exploded with theories, fear, and excitement. For the first time in human history, people knew with certainty they were not alone. 3 days passed with the ship maintaining its position, silent and watching. Then, without warning, 3 smaller craft detached from the main vessel and began their descent toward Earth. They landed simultaneously in 3 locations: Washington, D.C., Beijing, and New Delhi. No shots were fired, no hostilities commenced. Instead, from each craft emerged beings that appeared surprisingly humanoid, tall, with iridescent skin and eyes that seemed to shift color in the light. Captain Tai and his crew watched the live broadcasts from the station, along with billions of humans around the world. The aliens spoke perfect English, Mandarin, and Hindi, introducing themselves as representatives of the Galactic Council, a confederation of species that governed this sector of the galaxy. "We have been observing your world for some time," their leader announced. "We believe Earth is ready for first contact." World leaders quickly organized a global summit in Geneva. Captain Tai, having witnessed first contact from space, was recalled to Earth to attend as a special advisor. The summit hall buzzed with tension as the alien representatives entered. Ambassador Hoon, the apparent leader, moved with fluid grace to the podium. Up close, the alien's skin had a subtle pattern like scales so fine they were almost invisible. "Your species shows potential," declared Ambassador Hoon, surveying the assembled human delegates. "The Council will guide your development appropriately." Captain Tai felt a chill run through him. There was something in Hoon's tone, a parent speaking to a child who doesn't know better. President Kim of the United Nations stepped forward. "We welcome your friendship and knowledge exchange, but Earth is a sovereign planet. We would join any galactic community as equals." The Council delegates exchanged glances. Several made a chirping sound that the translation devices rendered as laughter. "Sovereignty is a concept primitive species cling to," Hoon explained, smiling condescendingly. "You'll outgrow such concerns under our guidance." Murmurs rippled through the human delegates. Captain Tai watched President Kim's face harden. "Perhaps we misunderstand each other," Kim said carefully. "On Earth, relationships between nations are built on mutual respect." Ambassador Hoon waved a 6-fingered hand dismissively. "Of course they are, just as parent-child relationships are built on respect. The child respects the wisdom of the parent respects the potential of the child." In the days that followed, the Council representatives outlined their plans for Earth's integration. They spoke of technology transfers, cultural exchanges, and economic opportunities, but behind each proposal lay the same assumption: Earth would follow the Council's lead in all things. "They don't see us as equals," Captain Tai told the Emergency Security Council. "Every suggestion we make is dismissed as naive or primitive." General Jin nodded grimly. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours. They know we can't refuse them." "Can't we?" asked Dr. Yun, the renowned physicist. "If their intentions are truly benevolent, they should respect our right to develop at our own pace." Meanwhile, Earth governments permitted the Council to establish a small outpost on the Moon as a gesture of goodwill. Captain Tai was assigned as human liaison, shuttling between Earth and the lunar base. At first, interactions remained tense but civil. Council scientists shared some basic technological insights while carefully studying Earth's broadcasts, literature, and internet. They seemed particularly interested in human military history. "Your species is unusually aggressive," noted Council scientist Jun during one exchange. "Most species evolve beyond warfare before achieving space flight." "We're working on it," Captain Tai replied with a tight smile. The breaking point came 3 months after first contact. The lunar research outpost established by humans decades earlier had been conducting routine scans of nearby space. The Council had not explicitly forbidden such activities, but had repeatedly suggested they were unnecessary. Captain Tai was heading back to Earth when the emergency signal blared through his shuttle. He swung the craft around just in time to see a beam of energy lance from a Council ship to the lunar outpost. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but no less devastating. The outpost, home to 37 scientists and engineers, was gone in an instant. "What happened?" he demanded, opening an emergency channel to the Council base. "Why did you fire on our facility?" Ambassador Hoon's face appeared on the view screen. "A regrettable incident. Your outpost was conducting unauthorized deep space scans that interfered with Council communications. Despite multiple warnings, they continued this aggressive action." "Warnings? What warnings?" Captain Tai's hands shook with rage. "Those were scientists, not soldiers." "We transmitted warnings on Council emergency frequencies," Hoon replied. "It is unfortunate your primitive systems were unable to receive them. We expect your government will take steps to prevent further provocations." Captain Tai stared in disbelief. "Provocations? You just killed 37 people." "An unfortunate incident," Hoon repeated, his expression unchanged. "We trust Earth will issue a formal apology for the actions that necessitated our defensive response." The communication ended, leaving Captain Tai alone in his shuttle, staring at the debris field that had once been his colleagues and friends. He sat in silence for a long moment, then opened a channel to Earth. "This is Captain Tai," he said, his voice steady despite the tears streaming down his face. "The Council has fired on Lunar Outpost 7. There are no survivors, and they expect us to apologize." On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Grief turned quickly to rage. In an emergency session of the UN, the Council representatives maintained their position. The humans had provoked the response through their primitive misunderstanding of galactic protocols. As Captain Tai looked out at their alien faces, showing no remorse for the lives they had taken, he understood with perfect clarity. Humanity had welcomed visitors but found invaders instead. The emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council lasted 16 hours. No breaks, no media, no leaks. For the first time in history, representatives from every nation sat together with a single purpose: survival. "They killed 37 of our people and expected an apology," said President Kim, her voice tight with controlled rage. The images of the destroyed lunar base played on screens around the room. "This is not a misunderstanding. This is not cultural difference. This is a clear message about how they view us." General Jin, a small man with sharp eyes and graying temples, stood to address the assembly. "The Council species possess technology centuries beyond ours," he said, his voice even. "But they have shown us something crucial. Despite their advanced technology, they are arrogant and careless." He clicked a button, bringing up surveillance footage of Council members speaking among themselves, apparently unaware they were being recorded. "They don't see us as a threat," he continued, pointing to the footage. "That's their first mistake." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity was outmatched, but perhaps not outplayed. "We need time," said Dr. Yun, head of Earth Science Coalition. "And we need their technology." As if answering her wish, an aide hurried in with news. A small Council shuttle had crashed in the Pacific Ocean after apparent engine failure. Recovery teams were already moving to secure the wreckage. Over the next days, a plan formed. On the surface, Earth would play the part the Council expected, the chastened child, the primitive species learning its place. Meanwhile, in secret, humanity would prepare. 3 weeks after the lunar attack, Earth formally apologized for the misunderstanding that led to the necessary defensive action by Council forces. Ambassador Hoon accepted with the same condescending smile he always wore. Captain Tai, watching from the back of the room, had to clench his fists to keep from shaking with anger. "You played your part well," General Jin told him later. "The Council sees exactly what they expect to see, a frightened, submissive species." Beneath the surface, a different reality was taking shape. In a repurposed mine shaft deep under the Korean peninsula, Captain Tai watched in amazement as scientists disassembled components from the crashed Council shuttle. "Their propulsion system uses principles we theorized but couldn't implement," Dr. Yun explained, pointing to a strange crystalline structure. "Our material science wasn't advanced enough, but now that we can see how they solved the problem." Similar scenes played out in hidden facilities across the globe. Russian engineers worked on weapons systems. Japanese teams focused on communications technology. Brazilian scientists tackled the biological components of Council tech. Indian programmers reverse-engineered the alien computer systems. Progress came at a surprising pace. What had taken Council species centuries to develop, humanity adapted in months. The pressure of extinction proved a powerful motivator, and human ingenuity flourished in the face of the challenge. "It's not that we're smarter than them," explained Dr. Moon during a briefing with military leaders. "It's that we think differently. The Council evolved as cooperative herd species. Their technological development was methodical, building consensus at each step." She brought up comparative brain scans. "Humans evolved as adaptable omnivores with tribal structures. We're hardwired for both cooperation and competition. We understand things like deception and guerrilla tactics. We've been perfecting both since before we invented writing." Admiral Su, a stern woman with a reputation for brilliant naval strategy, now led the covert fleet production. Spacecraft assembly took place in sections, with no facility knowing the complete picture. Components moved through shipping channels disguised as industrial equipment. "We build nothing that looks like a weapon," she instructed. "Everything must appear to be civilian infrastructure if detected." 6 months into the silent preparation, Captain Tai visited the underwater facility where the first prototype Human Council hybrid vessel was being tested. The ship was small, designed for speed and stealth rather than power. "We've incorporated their stealth technology," the engineer explained. "They'll never expect us to have mastered it so quickly." Captain Tai ran his hand along the hull. "Does it work?" "Better than it did for them," came the proud reply. "We found 3 inefficiencies in their design, corrected them all." Meanwhile, Earth's diplomats played their roles perfectly. They asked humble questions, expressed appropriate gratitude for Council guidance, and carefully cultivated the image of a species accepting its place in the galactic hierarchy. Council observers reported back that human resistance had been minimal after the initial shock. Integration was proceeding as expected with this primitive but promising species. A few noted the unusual speed with which humans adopted concepts, but attributed this to the simplicity of the ideas they were being taught. In a mountain training facility, Special Forces teams from a dozen nations trained together in simulated alien environments. They learned to move in low gravity, to fight in atmosphere mixes like those on Council ships, to use stolen Council weapons. "Their combat tactics are direct," the instructor explained. "Overwhelmed with superior firepower, they've never needed to be subtle." The soldiers practiced ambushes, hit-and-run attacks, and asymmetric warfare techniques developed over thousands of years of human conflict. They studied Council physiology, identifying vulnerabilities the aliens didn't know they had. Admiral Su assembled her command team 9 months after the lunar attack. The covert fleet now numbered 50 vessels, small but lethal, incorporating the best of human ingenuity and Council technology. "We remain outgunned," she said frankly, "but not outmatched. Council ships are stronger, but our tactics will be better. They expect direct confrontation because that's all they know. We'll give them something else entirely." General Jin nodded. "How soon can we move?" 3 more months, she replied. We need the full element of surprise. In his quarters that night, Captain Tai looked at the photo of the lunar base crew, his friends who had died in that first attack. Soon, he thought, soon we answer. In public, Earth continued its performance of compliance. President Kim attended council ceremonies with appropriate humility. Ambassador Hoon continued his condescending lessons about galactic civilization. In private, humanity prepared to show the galaxy what a truly dangerous species looked like when threatened. The Council believes they're introducing us to the stars, Dr. Moon told the final strategy meeting. They don't realize we've been dreaming of this moment for generations. In every culture, every society, humans have imagined meeting aliens. She smiled grimly. And we've imagined fighting them too. The silent preparation continued, counting down to the day when silence would turn to action. The anniversary of the lunar massacre arrived with perfect timing. Council representatives were conducting their standard monthly inspection of Earth's progress when the last pieces of Admiral Su's plan fell into place. Captain Tai stood on the bridge of the Shadow Talon, the first human-built stealth vessel. From the outside, it appeared to be a standard transport ship carrying minerals from the moon. Inside, it housed weapons systems reverse-engineered from Council technology and improved by human engineers. All ships report ready, his communications officer whispered. The crew spoke in hushed tones despite knowing no Council monitoring could penetrate their new stealth systems. Confirmed targets, Captain Tai ordered. His tactical officer brought up 3 locations on the main display. The Council's primary monitoring station in Earth orbit, their forward base on Mars, and their largest supply depot on Titan, one of Saturn's moons.
Remember your training, Captain Tai told his crew. Remember why we fight. Everyone on the bridge touched the small memorial patch on their sleeves, an image of the destroyed lunar base. Across the solar system, 50 human ships waited in perfect silence. Each crew had trained for months for this single mission. Each ship carried technology the Council believed impossible for humans to master. Signal from Admiral Su, the communications officer announced. Operation Righteous Response is go. Captain Tai took a deep breath. Engage stealth systems. Set course for primary target. The Shadow Talon's engines hummed to life, utilizing a hybrid propulsion system that left no detectable energy signature. Similar ships across the solar system began their silent approach to their targets. In Geneva, Ambassador Hoon was lecturing Earth's diplomatic corps on proper Council protocols when his communication device chimed. He frowned at the interruption but excused himself to check the message. Is something wrong, Ambassador? Asked Foreign Minister Siu, noticing the alien's suddenly rigid posture. A minor technical issue, Hoon replied, his normally confident voice strained. Nothing of concern. But as he returned to his seat, 3 more alerts sounded in quick succession. The Council representatives began exchanging worried glances. What they weren't telling the human diplomats, they had just lost contact with their primary monitoring station. All attempts to re-establish communication had failed. Captain Tai's ship glided silently through space, approaching the massive Council monitoring station. Unlike human space stations, this structure had minimal defensive capabilities. The Council had never needed to defend themselves in this solar system. We are in position, reported the tactical officer. No indication they've detected us. Deploy boarding teams, Captain Tai ordered. 20 soldiers in specialized space armor launched from the Shadow Talon, crossing the void to the Council station. Using cutting tools designed specifically for Council hull materials, they created entry points at predetermined locations. Inside the station, alarms began to sound as atmosphere vented from multiple breaches. Council personnel rushed to emergency stations, following protocols for meteoric impacts. None of them suspected a deliberate attack. By the time they realized what was happening, human soldiers had already secured the command center. "This station is now under Earth control," announced the strike team leader. "Cooperate and you will not be harmed." The council commander stared in shock at the human troops. "Impossible," he whispered. "You don't have this technology." "You underestimated us," replied the strike team leader. "A costly mistake." Similar scenes played out at the Mars Forward Base and the Titan Supply Depot. The human attack teams struck with precision and speed, utilizing detailed knowledge of Council systems to disable communications first, then weapons, then life support controls. Within 45 minutes, all 3 Council outposts were under human control. Not a single human casualty. Not a single Council member killed, though several were injured resisting capture. Admiral Sue stood on the bridge of her command ship, the Vindication. Reports from all strike teams confirmed complete success. "Prepare the broadcast," she ordered. Her communications officer nodded, connecting to the captured Council communication relay. This would allow them to transmit directly to the Galactic Council's central communication network. Admiral Sue straightened her uniform and faced the camera. Her expression was not one of triumph, but of grim determination. "Attention Galactic Council. I am Admiral Sue of Earth. 6 months ago, your forces destroyed our lunar research outpost, killing 37 civilians. You called it an unfortunate incident and expected us to apologize." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Today, we have captured 3 of your outposts in our solar system. Your personnel are unharmed and will be returned to you once we have established new terms for our relationship." She leaned forward slightly, her voice steady and clear. "You mistook our patience for weakness. You confused our restraint for inability. You will not make these mistakes again. Earth is not your subject. We are not your children. We are your equals, and you will treat us as such, or you will find we can be more than just equals. We can be your worst nightmare." The transmission ended. Admiral Sue turned to her crew. "Now we wait." The response came faster than anyone expected. The Council's High Chamber convened an emergency session within hours of Earth strike. Supreme Commander Du of the Arathi, the Council's primary military species, slammed his clawed appendage on the table. "Impossible. How could primitives master our technology so quickly? They had no space program beyond their own moon until we arrived." "The evidence is undeniable," replied Science Minister Ban, her thin fingers manipulating data displays. "They have not only adapted our technology, they have improved upon it. Our stealth systems on those outposts should have detected any approach." "Could another Council species be helping them?" suggested a representative from the Commerce Guild. "To what end?" snapped Commander Du, "this is unprecedented. No species has ever resisted integration this way." "Perhaps that is because we have never encountered a species quite like humans before," offered Elder Sue, the oldest member of the Council. As reports continued to filter in, the truth became undeniable. Earth had just attacked. They had won decisively, without a single human casualty. In orbit around Earth, the Council's diplomatic vessel prepared to depart with urgent speed. Ambassador Hoon, summoned back by the High Chamber, found himself escorted to his ship by stone-faced human security forces. "This is a serious mistake," he told Foreign Minister Siu at the departure bay. "The Council will not tolerate such aggression." Siu smiled thinly. "We studied your history very carefully, Ambassador. The Council has never faced real resistance because you only approach worlds without the means to resist. You mistake compliance for consensus. She handed him a data drive. Our terms for continued relations. We suggest the Council consider them carefully. As his ship departed Earth orbit, Ambassador Hoon reviewed the human demands with growing disbelief. They weren't asking for technology or resources. They were demanding recognition as a sovereign power and equal member of the galactic community. The very concept was alien to Council thinking. Species earned their place through centuries of guided development. Humans were trying to leap the entire process in a single generation. Primitives, he muttered, but with less conviction than before. Because despite everything, he couldn't deny one simple truth: the primitives had won. The news of Earth's successful strike against the Council spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Council authorities tried to control the information, describing the incident as a minor security breach that had been largely contained, but the truth could not be hidden for long. On the agricultural world of Velos, farmers gathered in secret to discuss what they had heard. "Is it true?" asked one, looking nervously over his shoulder. "Did the new species really capture 3 Council bases?" "My cousin works in shipping," another replied. "She says the Council pulled back all patrols in the Sol system. They're scared." Similar conversations happened on 1,000 worlds. Species that had lived under Council guidance for generations suddenly saw something they had never witnessed before: the mighty Council on the defensive. In the vast, gleaming chamber where the Galactic Council's leadership met, the mood was dark. Representatives from the 12 senior species sat around a circular table, their diverse physiologies united in concern. "This meeting will come to order," announced Elder Sue, the ancient Query whose species had helped found the Council millennia ago. "We face an unprecedented situation." Holographic displays showed the captured bases, and Admiral Sue's message played again for all to hear. Many Council members shifted uncomfortably at her words. "You mistook our patience for weakness." Commander Pax of the Arathi military caste rose to speak, his scaled skin flushed red with anger, the bone ridges on his head fully extended in a display of aggression. "The answer is simple," he declared, sharp teeth flashing.